I'm Andrea Immer Robinson, and I'm a master sommelier. Exploring wine and food is my passion, and it's my life's work. As a wine and food book author, TV host, trained chef, and educator, it's my privilege to share with you the fun, people, and places, and the delicious pairings that make our lives and our planet a better place. Welcome to Quench from my home in wine country. Okay, folks, we are back. We think we are back and in good shape here. Andrea Robinson, Master Sommelier, welcome to Quench. Rosé and orange wines. No, they're not made from oranges. We'll get all into that when the time comes. But first of all, just want to say I'm excited to have you all here, and I'm excited to be here at Brown Downtown. Now, this is a private tasting space where I'm located. I'm going to call it their special Napa Valley lair. This is a place where you can do special reservation things alongside or adjacent to their main lounge. It is such a cool place. And we'll talk more about some of the other things that you can do during the summertime here with the great folks at Brown Estate. But first of all, I just want you to know the last episode, we had a really great time at Decant Napa Valley with my colleague Jillian Balance and Advanced Sommelier Cara Patricia, my Master Sommelier colleague Jillian Balance, and I've known them both for years and years, and we had a great time tasting really some of their picks. I would kind of call it inside the actor's studio, but for wine geeks. And if you haven't been to their shop in Napa, the next time you come here, you got to check it out. I do want to introduce my guest, though. Speaking of Master Sommeliers, the great Christopher Gaither, and who I've known for many, many years. His better half is also Master Sommelier, Rebecca Feynman. We love them. And Christopher, talk about your role here at Brown Estate and House of Brown.
Sure thing. First off, thank you for having me, Andrea.
Thank you for
really great
coming.
to be here. So I am the Director of Wine Education and Brand Ambassador for Brown Estate, which is the first Black-owned estate winery in Napa Valley with a history of over 40 years. And so I'm just really honored to be here and representing the family in this capacity.
So I want to do something here real quick, though. I want to go to this scene right here. I just want to mention that we're actually here live and with some of our closest friends. So I'm just going to flip the camera around, and you guys give a wave. There's not everybody. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do this so that we can actually see everybody. Go ahead, give a wave. Woohoo! Yay! Now that's going to absolutely ruin my camera framing from before, but we'll make it work. Okay. So anyway, really excited to have everybody here with us. That doesn't look too bad. What we're going to do is we're going to start out with just a basic definition of what are orange and rosé wines, okay? And so first things first, orange wines are made from what fruit?
They're made from grapes.
Thank God, right? Okay, because this is the most incredibly confusing thing for people, right? So explain the idea of what makes a wine an orange wine.
Okay, sure thing. So if you have white grapes that are directly pressed, you'll make white wine.
Right.
White wine.
Right.
But if you have white grapes that are fermented with their skins in any capacity, that will lead to a skin contact wine. The longer the grape skins are in contact with the fermenting must, the more color is extracted.
Right. Right, and a lot of times I think, there are certain grape varieties that we know and love, like Muscat and Gewürztraminer and even Sauvignon Blanc sometimes, that get a little bit of skin contact, just like light crush, a little skin contact before fermentation. Here we're talking about skin contact that's sometimes longer during fermentation, or sometimes even they're aging on the skins after that, correct?
Exactly, aging on the skins for a period of either some weeks or a few months after fermentation.
Right, and then by contrast, rosé wines, not white grapes, red grapes. Usually.
Yep.
And then the idea there is just brief skin contact, right?
Very brief skin contact. Some rosé can be made by direct pressing, and enough color is extracted there to produce a paler rosé, or it can be made using the saignée method, which is basically during red wine production, juice is bled off, and that's extracting a little bit more color, and usually has a little bit more intensity and a little bit more weight. Or it could be a blending of a red wine with white wine.
Yes. Okay. So we'll get into that into some detail with a little bit of on-screen graphics so that you can get an understanding of some of those different techniques, because they do result in different styles of rosé, and they're affected, or they're really associated with different places that are famous for rosé.
Right.
So. But let's talk about a little bit more about, we already defined amber wines, and that's really the word that they use in some of the classic countries where orange wines are produced. They call them amber, almost to avoid the confusion of people thinking that they're made of oranges.
Exactly.
But also because, like, looking at some of these, they can pick up and almost a little bit of a brown or orangey tinge, sometimes extremely orangey tinge, like the one that we're tasting here on the right, and we'll jump into what those are in a second. But let's first talk about, like, where did this all start? Orange wines or amber wines are really mostly associated with old world countries originally.
Yeah.
And I mean, I haven't tasted very many of these. Maybe you have, because you also have a really very well respected wine-driven restaurant with your wife in San Francisco called Ungrafted. I don't know if you guys sell wines there like that, or if you have in the past in your restaurants.
We do. One of them that's the most popular right now is called Chinobium, coming from Umbria. Really
Okay.
tasty.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So classically, these wines are associated with countries like Slovenia and the geeky sommeliers of the world, and there are a few of them in the audience here, are really into these wines. And part of that, I think, is because they represent such tradition and artisanship.
Yes.
Would you say?
I would say that, and also it's a departure from some of the more traditional flavor profiles that a lot of people see represented at restaurants and at retailers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then, so Slovenia, and then really bordering that in a way, and you could say culturally they're joined. Northeast Italy.
Northeast Italy for sure.
Particularly Friuli, but you
Friuli,
mentioned the
Venezia
one that you
Giulia.
have is from where?
The one we're featuring comes from Umbria.
Umbria.
And is
That's awesome.
directed by the Bea family, made at a monastery. Super cool.
Very cool. And then classically, really the most ancient of all of them from the country, not the state, although we have some Hotlanta visitors here.
Hotlanta in the house.
Hotlanta in the house, but the country of Georgia. And the first wine that we have actually that we're going to taste is inspired by those wines. But the country of Georgia, which I didn't know this until about a year ago, but they have archaeological evidence that wine was being produced there since 8,000 years ago.
That's crazy, right?
And which is so cool.
Yeah.
And in fact, they still do it the old-fashioned way. I wanted to show everybody a picture of this amphora type vessel that they use there. They call them kvevri. Say that 3 times
you said
fast.
that beautifully.
But I wanted to show this picture of it because what you see is these can be really huge.
Yes.
And then they bury them in the ground, and then just throw all the grapes in there, and oftentimes even with the stems too, right?
Exactly, and the ground helps to, being buried underneath the ground helps to act as insulation during the fermentation process. So it helps to kind of keep the temperatures relatively cooler during fermentation, which is always a plus.
Right, and this is a dream of mine to go visit there. I don't know if you've been there, but
I've not been there. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, but I'd love to go to Georgia. At one point in time, I got invited to go out with a group of master sommeliers roughly about a year ago, and I had to turn down that opportunity.
I know, I've had that.
But you know what? That's okay.
Yeah.
You and I should go together. We should plan this.
Yes, we should plan this with everyone that's in the room with us. Okay, we're going to do a Brown Downtown meets Georgia road trip, field trip. I heard that you have to be prepared to eat a lot. Let me jump back real quick to that, just to show you that, because I forgot to mention the URL that I put on that is if you want to check out, it's a really cool video. It's a short film that won a film festival called the Amphora Project, and it talks about how the use of these amphora-shaped vessels is coming back into fashion all over the world. This particular one was about San Luis Obispo County in Southern California, where people are really getting into it. But I think we're seeing this all over the place.
Yeah, it's definitely very popular, and I would say a lot of these artisanal methods for winemaking are definitely coming back into the fold, especially because you have people that really want to showcase a sense of place with what they're doing, and what better way to do that? Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I threw up on the screen here as well, though, a little graphic about some of the classic grapes that are being used for the traditional orange wines. So in Slovenia, the Ribula grape, which is, I think, the Ribolla Gialla of Italy, and it has a bunch of other synonyms. But anyway, local grape varieties. And then in Northeast Italy, in Friuli, they're using their local grapes as well, like
Friulano, which is fantastic, or the ubiquitous Pinot Grigio, which is very popular. That could be used for that as well, which there's some fantastic examples of that too.
Can you talk about real quick, there's a category of the Pinot Grigio that I think is skin contact called Ramato?
Called Ramato.
Okay, can you explain that?
Yeah, Pinot Grigio is a pink skin grape, so, or rather, Grigio means gray, but Pinot Grigio is a pink skin grape, and usually most examples, even if they're directly pressed, will have just a little color pigmentation in them. This is used to make, used with a little bit more skin contact to make a slightly richer, slightly fuller bodied rosé that has a noticeable amount of pleasant, kind of refreshing, brisk bitterness to it, and can be fantastic as an aperitif.
Which sounds amazing. And I should shout out, though, while we're talking about Friuli, before we get to Georgia, well, let's just mention Georgia's grape, Arcazzitelli. It's their local classic, although we're going to be tasting one from the Finger Lakes, and there's a method to that madness, which I'll explain in a second. But that is their local specialty grape. It's also one, I think, the most widely planted grape in Russia. So it is their indigenous, vinifera grape variety, and I love it because it's super aromatic. But before we jump off of the Friuli discussion, we need to shout out to Bobby Stuckey, another fellow master sommelier who won the Julia Child Award, and whose restaurant, which is inspired by the region of Friuli and its wines and its foods, just won Outstanding Restaurant with the James Beard Awards.
Oh yeah.
So cheers to Bobby.
Cheers, Bobby. Hope you're watching this.
And Carlin and all the folks there, Danette, Bobby's wife, they are just amazing people and amazing hospitalitarians that we all so much look up to. So cheers to that. I'm actually going to taste and not spit. But
were we supposed to be spitting?
Well, we are prepared to spit. After the first issue with our stream, I think I sort of needed to swallow. I needed a drink. Let's put it that way. But we're going to taste these 3 orange wines, amber wines, so to speak. None of them are super vivid in color except the last one, which is notably orange. But everybody who's tasting with us, you have these in the same order that we do. We're tasting Dr. Constantine Frank Arcazzitelli. We are tasting Head High Skin Contact White Wine, which is made by the great folks at Price Family Wines, and they're blending a really interesting combination of grapes that we'll talk about in a second. And then we are tasting this really crazy Ventura County Doctor's Orders Riesling Low Intervention amber wine. So let's start out with the Dr. Constantine Frank, and the reason they have this planted is that Dr. Frank, so they're now in their 4th generation, but when Constantine came over from Odessa, which at the time was in Russia and is now Georgia, he was a PhD in viticulture. And he came to the Finger Lakes to help them make wine and to introduce vinifera grapes to that region. They were using mostly native grape varieties like Concord and so on. And they all said, "You're crazy, you won't be able to do vinifera in the Finger Lakes." And he said, "I'm from Georgia, it's colder there, don't you worry." So he did bring this Arcazzitelli with him. So cool. Let's try it.
That's a fun, uplifting story of somebody who's being told, constantly, "No, you can't do this," and they say, "Okay, whatever, I'm going to do it," and they crushed it.
Exactly. And what I love about Arcazzitelli, or as they call it, Arcats there for short,
Arcats,
kind of cool, is that it has this pretty aromatic fragrance to it. I'm curious what you guys tasting it. Are you smelling that kind of? It's almost a floral quality to it. It's pretty lovely.
Yeah.
And but super light-bodied in style. It's interesting because I was looking at it. I think another element of the floral comes from, they age this in oak barrels of acacia.
Oh, that's super cool.
Acacia,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
every time I've had winemakers talk to me about acacia oak, they rarely use it as 100%, and I think quite a few people here in the audience work for some of the top local wineries, including Brown, and have talked about like the different kinds of things that people are experimenting with around here. Acacia is usually just kind of like a grace note, but I think this is probably neutral acacia, so it's just giving this very little bit of it, but 8 months and in the barrels and 1 month on the skin. So it is it's not super dark, which says to me, I don't know what you think, but it says to me that the skins are probably pretty thin.
The skins are probably pretty thin, and they're making this to be in a light, refreshing style that's really, really crushable for the summertime months. And also, you know, there's a little touch of pleasant bitterness in the back end.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of citrus blossom to it. It goes down super easy. So this is a nice kind of introduction to our Cacciatelli.
Yeah, and a nice introduction to the category of orange. It's very, I think I loved what you said about a little bit of a grip or a little bit of bitterness. I think that's part of what people are going for when they make this style, is they're going for it to have a little bit of grip on the palate.
And I think a lot of people that drink wine on a regular basis, especially people that drink white wine, they may not even, they may be somewhat sensitive to it, but may not realize that they're experiencing those sensations when they're drinking a lot of different wines that maybe get a little bit of skin contact, because it's very, very popular as a winemaking technique to give wines a little bit more texture, just a little bit more mouthfeel, and make them even better to pair with food.
So, that's really the whole point and purpose of wine. Let's talk about this for a second, because you guys have a nice little snack plate here, and I think when you come taste at Brown Downtown, you can, this is the type of experience that you can have when you come here. That looks like tête de moine. We've got some charcuterie.
We got some, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous, I forgot the name of this cheese. Petite Basque, sheep's milk cheese coming from southern France and Basque Country.
That.
We got some Marin French, local brie style or triple cream. We've got some Genoise salami, as well as some copa, and then also some Sicilian olives and celery crackers.
So my question is, I know you can't do this at Brown Downtown, but have you ever had what are they? Mom makes them. Are they sweet potato pancakes, like latke type things?
Oh my
And
God.
then she puts caviar on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, like the Coral and David and Danine's mom makes these.
Oh yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
It is they make onion fritters.
Onion fritters.
Yes,
Okay.
Yes. So freaking
So good.
Oh my God. So unforgettable, Mrs. Brown. I hope
know.
you're watching this,
I
Mrs.
know.
Brown. We need some more of those.
Bring it on.
So good.
Yeah, and I would definitely have a wine like this with that, because I think the acid would cut through. That little bit of grip would stand up to the kind of richness in the fried element.
Yeah, and the creme fraiche, like that fresh kind of slight creamy note would be cut perfectly with this.
Yeah. Wonderful. So let's move on to our next wine, and I have my thing on the screen here that says to remind you to subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe to the channel, then I don't have to have sponsors, and right now I don't. So wouldn't that be cool? Then we can always do what we want, which is great. Okay, so moving on to the next wine. This is Head High, and have you ever surfed? Being from Atlanta, maybe not.
You know what? No, I'm an inner city kid, so anything that can be done on the streets, I can do that. I've street surfed.
As in
skateboard.
As skateboard. Hey, so did I. Back in the day when Charlie's Angels and the Farrah Fawcett scene with her on a skateboard, that was my jam. So we all of us girls had to go out immediately to learn how to skateboard, because we were like, gosh, if Farrah Fawcett can do it, then we can do it. And she solved crimes in the process, so it was great. Busted the bad guys while on a skateboard with amazing hair. Anyway, so this wine is what's cool about it is several things. First of all, it's a blend of Viognier Grenache Blanc, Roussanne, Marsanne, Vermentino, and Muscat.
Say what?
So a whole bunch of cool grapes in it, and all of them aromatic.
Yeah.
7 days fermentation in neutral French oak and stainless steel is the aging regimen, and it is really, they just make it for fun. In fact, it says, what is skin contact white wine on the bottle, and it says something like, this is in homage to the ocean and to surfing, and hence Head High is, if you have a head high wave, you're really happy. It says, it's a slow disco song on the classic rock station. It's learning how to snowboard after skiing your whole life. Oh, sorry, did you want the actual definition? White grapes fermented with the skins on. Will you live a little? I like
love that.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
That's very cool. So this is, oh God, it's got a beautiful aromatics.
Yeah, super cool.
Super floral. And the other thing that's really cool about this is the climate neutral ocean positive. So what they are doing is using various elements of stewardship that allow them to clean watersheds and offset their carbon footprint, not by buying carbon offsets, which sometimes don't really stand up to scrutiny, but rather by rebuilding kelp forests, watersheds, and mangroves, because those are huge carbon sucks, right? So if you keep kelp and mangroves and other big heavy infrastructure plants, grape plants are another, as a perennial plant, they're huge carbon sinks. So this is one where they're offsetting the energy use for the wine production through that, not just by buying carbon offsets. That's
a really cool
it's really
effort
cool
that they're putting into it.
Yeah,
super
and
cool.
I love this the smell. It's apricot.
Apricot. It's apricot. It also has a slight floral note to it, almost like orange. It has like this orange oil, orange peel,
right?
And then on top of that, really great texture. It's really it's got a little bit of creaminess to it in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, easy going down.
Yeah, this one makes me think of, I'd almost want like Asian food or Thai, some things that have like, those dipping sauces and or even a peanut sauce would be amazing with that.
That would be great with that. I'm thinking of some lumpia too. Oh man, I would crush that. Yeah. Oh. And some pancit. Let's go.
The audience just went wild for that. Everyone's like dialing up, delivery right now on their phone.
Exactly.
Just kidding. Okay, and so finally, this last one, and just to look at the color for everybody, if you wanted orange wine, this is it. And for those, as we're tasting through, we're going to be pouring a rosé blind tasting. So if you want to dump or down the hatch your first 2 glasses, it's a 2 wine blind tasting. Everyone's looking at me like, no, I don't want to do that. I want time to drink these wines. And so if you don't want to do the blind tasting along with us, then that's okay. But I'm letting you know that's where we're headed, because it's a really interesting tasting that you do. But let's go to this. So this is what's called Doctors, and I'll jump back to the list real quick so you can see these, the wines that we had. This is called Doctor's Orders, and it's a orange wine of of Riesling. And yes, right. And it says orange wine / skin contact, Ventura County.
I love that.
They're really, really focused on extremely low intervention, and we're not going to get too deep in that. But one of the aspects of the orange wine world is also a lot of the producers that use that technique are going for. I think most quality wine is extremely low intervention and extremely natural. It just is. Yeah. But if you really go low touch, then sometimes you end up with these styles that are uniquely aromatic, sometimes savory, and also if you're using less intervention, meaning less SO2 addition, sulfur dioxide addition, which is not a problem for any wine production other than for people who have severe asthma.
Right.
Otherwise, sulfur dioxide is a solid approach to winemaking.
Agreed.
Within normal good business practice, which is what everybody does. This one, they went for as low as they could. I think it's still really clean and really nice.
I think so too.
It's got an amazingly interesting nose. It almost makes me think of the smell of cheesecake. Because I get the smell of like sweetened cream cheese, but then I also get the smell as if they put apricot topping on it. And then I get a little bit of a little bit of that graham cracker crust thing going in there too on the smell.
I'm right there with you. Yeah, I'm getting dried Turkish apricots. Like there's even a touch of of honey to it as well. And it has this really interesting kind of savory, heather, like almost like straw quality. Yeah. Like walking through a field.
Absolutely.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and it's also got, there is a little tiniest bit of a of a tart edge to it, a little bit towards what we would call VA, but in a good way, like that lifted, like, oh, just give me a little bit of a squeeze of you know, cider vinegar on my, you know, fish and chips kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Really, really nice. It's gosh, it makes me just really think it would be so interesting to do so many different food things with it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like, talk about fish. I'm thinking about like some kind of like slightly oilier, like seared fish with some kind of like my wife Rebecca makes this awesome. She'll pan sear salmon and do like a kind of a caper garlic sauce, which is amazing. And this kind of makes me want that right now.
What time's dinner?
As soon as I get back home.
Right, exactly. Darling, can you please make the caper sauce fish?
I hope you're watching this, Rebecca.
Yeah, exactly.
Save me some fish. She's actually making some fish and couscous at home.
Oh,
Save me some fish, Rebecca.
Oh man, Mamacita. She's also on the board of directors of the Court of Master Sommeliers. I have to say that is a hard job.
Yes.
And she's new to the board, and she's doing a kick butt job. And I'm just
That's very kind.
really, really proud that she jumped into that, because that is hard to do. She's a mom of two, business owner, takes care of this one.
Oh, yeah,
and which, you know, he didn't show up with his pink shirt, so there had to be an emergency shopping trip.
Why you gotta tell everybody?
Well, because
they weren't supposed to know about that. They're supposed to be like, oh, that's a nice pink shirt you got on, Chris. Oh yeah. I just pulled it out the closet.
He calls me from the car and he's like, I'll see you soon. And I'm like, or no, he texts me and I'm like, which obviously was hands-free. And I go, you know, can't wait to see you in your pink shirt. He's like, oh, I forgot it.
Hey, but I came with the pink shirt, right?
Yes, exactly.
There
yes,
we go.
You made it happen.
Showed up.
I do want to say a real quick hello to Mark Radke, who says, greetings from Athens, Georgia. So there's
Athens in the house.
Yeah, so thank you for tuning in. We got Georgia hanging on the line here. And James, no, the Riesling is not too sweet. It is bone dry. I'm answering a comment that came in, but so yeah, it's bone dry, which is you know, a lot of people like think Riesling, they immediately think flute-shaped bottle. They immediately think maybe like a Blue Nun, which was what our exposure to to that style of wine. I don't even think it had much Riesling or has much Riesling in it. But look, it got a lot of people into wine in the 70s and 80s.
It did get a lot of people into wine in the 70s and 80s. It also helped Germany rebuild their economy after World War II.
Yes.
And also on top of that, like, you know, I'm just going to put this out there. Most Riesling that you drink from Germany, if you go to Germany, it's going to be dry. They drink mostly dry Riesling there, and the sweet stuff they ship over here. Just being real about it. And then on top of that, it's every sommelier's dream to have you drink Riesling.
Yes,
right? Like I
absolutely.
serve so much Riesling, it's almost like it's going out of style. I got a T-shirt that says Riesling, and then it says "sport to drink," because that's a very fun saying that was coined by an Australian winemaker in South Australia. In Eden Valley.
Oh, I like it. Well, you notice that I did squeeze a Riesling into this lineup because we do have that disease, and it is it's a wonderful one. And I'll just do a shout out too that Peter Seychelles, who brought Blue Nun into this country and turned it into an incredible sensation. He passed away recently.
Oh.
There will be a big, I think he was over 100. There will be a big tribute to his life in September. But what an amazing man. If you ever have a chance to look up his history and the history of that brand, it's really something. Yeah. And like I say, it was an on-ramp for a ton of us, which is actually, let's roll with our blind rosé wines, but talking about an on-ramp for people in this country, it's a good transition over to pink stuff. Because all of us got exposed in the United States to pink wine through white Zinfandel. Mm-hmm. And it came to pass because Sutter Home had a bunch of red Zinfandel grapes planted, and the taste of the consumer had drifted over to white wine. And so necessity is the mother of invention. It's going to take way too long to replant a vineyard and let it be yielding properly to make wine from it. Mm-hmm. So you're just going to have to figure out how to make white wine from red grapes, and thus the story. Was that one of the first wines you ever tasted? Because it was for me, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, one of the first ones I remember tasting actually was a Moscato, was a Asti Spumante, when my mom used to fry fish. every Saturday, and my dad wanted something special to have with the fried fish.
Hey.
I'm getting all these looks. You know what I'm
like
talking
that.
about. Good old Southern fish fry.
Yes.
But that being said, yeah, I tried white Zinfandel at a pretty young age. I didn't drink wine with my family or anything like that. We weren't, big wine drinkers, but every now and then there would be a celebration and somebody would bring a bottle of wine, and I remember somebody bringing some white Zinfandel, and at the time, I didn't get a chance to really taste it. I saw it. It was, it may have been Sutter Homes or something like that, but
of course
that was
it was
my
Sutter
first
Homes.
exactly. Like, yeah, you can't miss it.
Great. Is this number 1? Or we don't know?
Let's see.
Hold
let's
on.
see. That's number 2.
This is number 1.
That's yours. And
Wait,
that's mine.
you're holding number 2.
I'm holding.
You're his.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So then.
Oh wait, hold on. There's a stopper.
Oh, let's move this. Take the stopper out. We're
Great.
pouring these wines real quick.
Perfect.
So you can
Thank you.
just. I'll pour you here,
Okay. Great.
and then we move on.
Thank you.
And you can pour those too.
Okay.
Oh, we'll know once we get them in the glass. So go
Oh
ahead.
yeah.
Of course you will.
Can't miss it.
So go ahead.
Okay. Would
All
you
right.
like the other one?
So while
Yes.
we're talking about it, I'm going to just put the stopper over here. So color. So my first wine with a cork, and now most of them don't have a cork, was white Zinfandel for sure. In fact, it was Sutter Home white Zinfandel, and I just thought it was the cat's meow. What's really cool about that wine style is that it's just lightly sweet, and the fact of the matter is, we all love sweet, right?
Yep.
Don't we? So, so that is a very, very,
Good.
I'm switching them around.
You
Yeah.
want to put what order you're putting?
Yeah, so we're going to do the lightest one on the left to right. So we're putting the wine that you're most familiar with on the right. How about that? Okay. All right, so we got our blind wines here, but I put this graphic up on the screen because pink is, for so long in this country,
Yep.
people, it was sort of like the Riesling story. People associated with Riesling with sweet, simple, and not that interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they associated pink with sweet and simple.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it wasn't delicious.
Doesn't mean it wasn't delicious. Exactly.
But if you started to fancy yourself kind of sophisticated, you were like, I'm beyond that.
You're like,
and so,
I'm too. What is this rosé wine? I don't
yeah,
drink that.
and all of us in the sommelier world would be like, but there's great dry rosés,
Yeah.
and people would see pink and immediately do this, right?
Yep.
So then things changed, and we'll talk about why that is in a second. But I have this graphic up on the screen right now because a lot of what we talk about and what we've just poured here is a good example of color variations, right?
Yeah.
And people sometimes are starting, I think, inappropriately to consider the color to somehow be an indication of the quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather,
And
it's not.
It's not, and I think that color can be a useful convention to determine what potential style the rosé could be, but definitely not the quality. And one of the biggest things I would say is super important to keep in mind is that there are so many different styles of rosé. You can have a rosé that can be paired with, all kinds of bright, delicious, easy seafood, sushi, but you can have rosé that can be paired with steak. It really depends on the style and the producer. One of my favorites, and I'm going to give you one example in either category, one of my favorite really light, bright rosés is actually a rosé champagne, and I have to give a shout out to the house that produces this because this is one of my favorite rosés to drink, especially with sushi. Domaine Runard,
yes.
Rip, Frederick,
Yes, Frederick
Panayiotis. He
Panayiotis.
passed away this past week,
Yes.
and just want to give a remembrance, a quick moment to just remember him. I've gone to many Runard
Great
champagne
man.
competitions and tastings, and he is such a fantastic soul, amazing presenter.
Yes.
Knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Just a really awesome human being, and
Yes.
so just wanted to remember my memory of him,
Yes.
and just a shout out to him, and hope that
all the best to his family.
all the best to his family.
Yeah. Frederick Panayiotis, or as they used to jokingly call him, Fred,
Freddy.
with
Freddy.
your French accent, which is so awesome,
Yeah.
And he was Fred,
Yeah.
because he was very funny,
Exactly.
but also extremely knowledgeable
Extremely
and talented.
knowledgeable. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
Of course. And then one of my other rosés I like to pair with steak, Lopez de Heredia. If you can get your hands on it, that's one of those wines that you will only find at restaurants because it's made in such small quantities.
Yeah.
And I hope I still have some left if I can think about it. I think maybe I have like 1 or 2 left in the cellar. Fantastic steak. Can't beat it.
Absolutely, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second because there's a technique to how they're getting it to be that way. And if you want to start to drill down on rosés, knowing a little bit about the different choices of ways they can make it can help you understand what to expect stylistically. I showed this graphic though because the French will tell you, and this is I'm indebted to the Centre du Rosé in Provence in the south of France, which of course is what we associate with the great rosé lifestyle and culture. These are all from one vintage. This picture happened to be done with wines made in the 2000 vintage. One grape variety, the same one, Grenache, which is the classic grape variety of rosé in Provence, and for the quality ones, and the exact same vinification method to the degree you can control it, which you can with a lot of the stainless steel tanks and things like that. The differences are strictly place where the grapes were grown, so back to terroir. So they really believe, and they have demonstrated, at least in terms of color, that the terroir comes through even when the grape and the vinification is the same. So the darker wines didn't see a longer time with the skins or anything. So I just thought that was interesting to show. So
really
they love to talk about rosé wines as vin de piscine, pool wine, at least the less expensive ones. Maybe the one, not the Lopez. That's steak wine.
Yeah,
we talked about that. But that's why. So I had to go with the pool colors on my graphic here. But there's a few different ways, and you alluded to it. A few different ways that you can get the color in the skins. And you mentioned direct to press. And I would say in a heartbeat that this first one that we had is done that way.
Yep.
And that means that there really is almost no skin contact, and they're getting the grapes really cold, and they're pressing them cold because if the littlest bit of pressure, you will get some of that skin color into the wine. They want a little bit, but a really little bit.
Yeah, just a touch.
Yeah, and then I think there's other methods. You mentioned saignée.
Yes, I mentioned
so
saignée.
I wanted people to see the spelling of that because it's a French word and it means bled. So explain why you would say bled for saignée.
Yeah, so this is a common convention during red wine production where a portion of the juice is bled off of the fermenting must, yielding a more concentrated eventual red wine, but also that portion that's bled off can be fermented and made into wine, and usually that has a little bit more body, a little bit more weight, and sometimes, especially, more color as well.
Right. So increasingly, now that as climates are warming, more and more places are not so much doing saignée to concentrate the red wine that's left. That's what they used to do. Kind of bleed the juice off, and then like we want to concentrate some juice with a higher proportion of skins. Then we've got a rosé wine that we can drink while it's still hot and before the red wine is finished fermenting and aging. But there are some regions, and I highlighted one in my graphic here, Tavel, where they explicitly do the saignée method for that wine. They're not making a red wine from those grapes.
Right.
It's just because that's the style they make, and you'll see it if you buy a Tavel, which I recommend. They're delicious wines, Grenache based. They're going to be a much more darker rosé color than even what we have here.
Yeah, fuller body, more texture, more weight. So that's a rosé that's designed for drinking in the cooler months of the year and can be paired with a little bit richer fare.
Yes, absolutely. And then you mentioned champagne, and it is extremely rare. In fact, there are very few appellations in France. I don't actually know of a single one, but I think
champagne is the only appellation that you can blend white and red.
Okay, so this is a situation where you're taking actual full-on red wine and mixing it with the white wine.
Exactly, and usually in a really, really small proportion, but that's a very important technique that's really indicative of champagne, and especially part of the process. And also, it's very, very feasible, or rather, albeit convenient, the way this is done, and it allows producers, or growers, if you will, that are located in the Côte de Blanc to be able to still make rosé, purchasing fruit from other areas.
Right, exactly, and that's an interesting thing. Like so many what we'll say terroir-driven wines, the wines of Champagne are the grape that's planted in a particular area of Champagne is tailored to that area. So if it's more suited to white, they're not going to plant red grapes there, but they might need to take some red wine from another area.
Exactly. So people in the Côte de Blanc, just south of Epernay, will purchase fruit from the Montagne de Reims, probably a really well-known village, appropriately named Bouzy.
Hey, I
and get
like
some
it.
fantastic
Yes.
Bouzy Rouge
Bouzy
or
Rouge.
Pinot Noir from the village of Bouzy to blend in to make rosé.
And it's a really it's very distinctive to them. They're now doing some Saignée champagnes as well, and just it's something that I'm seeing more and more. But classically, it's that blended style, and it's the style we know and love. But let's talk about now grape varieties for rosé, because aside from method of whether you press or you Saignée or you blend, you can also get color variation from the grape choice.
Yeah,
Right?
you can definitely get color variation from the grape choice.
Yeah, so one of the key grapes that we talked about already quite a bit, Grenache, partly it's used a lot in rosé making because it's one of the most widely planted grapes anywhere, particularly in Europe, but especially Spain and France, and it's the kind of the driver in the Provence rosés. It's
Definitely.
really, and when you see a little bit of an orangey tinge, or like the color of sort of shallot skin or onion skin, that's oftentimes a tip-off that it's Grenache, because it tends to be an orangey looking grape, right?
Yes, exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a different selection of grape variety, red grape to make rosé, correct?
Right.
But if you were choosing, for example, Zinfandel, like when people have white Zinfandel, it's much more pink. It goes more towards bubblegum. It's got the purple hues rather than the orange.
Exactly. Zinfandel may be slightly thicker. I won't even get into that. I'll just say, the ripening pattern for Zinfandel yields itself to maybe potentially extract a little bit more color. And that's also a convention of winemaking, specifically in areas that grow and work with Zinfandel. So that's something that is important to note.
And so we're blind tasting these now, and we've already talked a little bit about the fact that maybe the grape variety is a variation here that we can look at. First of all, just the group tasting here, like they're quite a bit different. Yeah, absolutely, and they're both delicious. They both, to me, the paler one almost smells like white wine. Whereas when I go to, maybe it's like towards like watermelon or salted watermelon, so it's just barely got any red fruit character to it.
Yep.
It smells really refreshing and yummy. And then when I go to the darker colored one, this is when I smell cherries. This is when I smell red wine taste profiles or fruit flavors.
Like strawberry.
Yeah, almost even, oh gosh. It just makes me think of like when, strawberry, because my grandmother, this would have been, a few months ago, this would have been the time of year that we would have started harvesting strawberries from the gigantic garden they had. And we just started making strawberry jam, strawberry preserves, strawberry pie.
Yes.
I mean, like, the only reason we didn't get fat is because we were out there picking stuff all day. But
This reminds me of strawberries, getting them at the farmer's market, and I remember this. I was wearing some really pristine white Air Force Ones, and I was getting a taste of the strawberries from the market, and they pass out samples, right?
Yeah, and you're
so
like,
I bite
of
into them, and I
course.
see some strawberry juice about to drip down. I have to scoop back so I don't get it on my pristine white Air Force Ones. So that's what it reminds me. End of summer strawberry, right? Juicy, like. Yeah.
And a bullet dodged as far as the shoes go, for sure. Because you gotta have the shoes, but you also have to have that transformative strawberry moment for sure. So I taste these. They're stylistically very different. With the darker one, I want something a little bit more. Like the paler one, I sort of almost want with like bivalves or something really, really light.
Yeah.
Whereas this darker one, I want like a burger, or I want some barbecue.
Oh yeah.
I feel like it has a lot going on to stand up to those types of things.
It does. I would do some funky cheese with this. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, this
Okay,
hits.
well, maybe
this
we
is nice.
should.
Exactly.
All
Go
right.
for
Why-
it.
yeah, why
Go
am I-
for it,
why am-
Andrea. What?
I
Don't
thought
hold,
this
don't
was a
hold
piece
back.
of cauliflower. It's cheese that's
We-
a fancy slice.
We use a special cutter to do it and give it the florets. Really,
guys
really
are
tasty,
fancy.
right? Mm-hmm. You like?
Oh, that's so good.
I'm gonna join you. I'm gonna get in there with you.
Okay.
Wow.
Oh, that's so good. Ooh, wow. When you slice it that way, it gets all fluffy. Mm-hmm. That's really nice. That's delicious. Okay.
Wow.
So we are going to reveal the wines,
Oh yeah.
and
May I talk really quickly
yes,
about this?
yes, let's do it.
So I like to do comparative tastings using wines from the Old World compared with wines that are coming from the New World. And this is a really, really fun exploratory effort to learn more about climate, learn more about winemaking, learn more about growing regions, and how different wines will showcase themselves in the glass.
Right, right. So I showed the two bottles here. We have the house. Look at these two bottles, by the way. They are gorgeous. We have the House of Brown Rosé, which is from our folks right here, your team, and the incredible Brown family. I feel very connected to this brand, and I can tell that story, but it doesn't really matter to this moment. And then Whispering Angel, which, let's face it, it kicked off what a lot of people would consider to be the rosé revolution of the last 20 years.
Yes, they had a meteoric rise to dominate rosé, the rosé market, and I remember that because that was the rosé that people were asking for, and I remember I was working at Gary Danko in San Francisco.
Gary
and
Danko, oh, too fancy now.
Oh my God, that was one of the most popular wines. I couldn't get enough of it in. People were crushing it, especially during the summertime.
Yeah.
Which in San Francisco is in the late summer.
Right.
Yeah.
No, in summertime in San Francisco was wintertime. Just ask Mark Twain. What was it? The coldest winter I ever spent was summer in San Francisco.
Exactly.
It's opposite, right? Because you get those Humboldt currents bringing the fog in the summer, and then in the wintertime it's like so chill. So not cold. But anyway, yes, in summertime. So I think it's not even that it dominated the category of rosé. At some level, it kind of helped create it.
Yeah.
It really got people embracing dry rosé,
Yep.
and then that opened the floodgates for everywhere in the world to start making dry rosé. And
Agreed.
I would say, right here in the Napa Valley, if people have Pinot Noir grapes, they are making dry rosé out of them.
For sure.
And that's one grape that we didn't talk about, but that's an important one for rosé as
Very.
well. And it gives you Pinot Noir characteristics, and typically Pinot Noir, pretty pale color. Do you have a
Yes.
favorite region
Ooh.
for Pinot Noir rosé?
For Pinot Noir rosé, a favorite region, maybe Marsanne.
In Burgundy,
in
okay.
Burgundy, I really, really love those.
How about
those
Sancerre?
wines for Sancerre. Oh my God, yes. Yeah. I also, funny enough, I love German rosé as well, based on Pinot Noir. Yeah.
Have you ever tried the Wittmann?
Yes, I love the Wittmann. Yeah.
That is
Oh
so
my
good.
God.
Wow, what a great wine.
For sure.
Yeah, so if everyone's thinking of, there's so many exciting things to explore, and everything that you just mentioned and that we just talked about, they're not cheap, but they're not super expensive either.
No, these are affordable wines, easy to find, easy to acquire. And if I may, can I give just a quick shout out to
Please.
both of these rosés? They're both great. I'm pretty partial to the House of Brown Rosé, I'll just say that. But the Whispering Angel is based mainly on Grenache, and then it has some supporting grapes like Sanso and maybe is there some Mourvedre or Roll in this?
They have some roll in this, and
Yeah.
roll
Okay, cool.
is a white grape, but they do not ferment them separately.
Rollin'.
They have to ferment them together by law, so that it's not a blended one. They finish the fermentation together in the same vessel, so that they're not breaking that rule of no blending other than champagne.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the House of Brown Rosé, this
Look
is
at that label.
75% Zinfandel,
Yep.
along with 20% Muscat Blanc and 5% Viognier. So that's part of the reason there's a little bit more aromatic dimension there, and also there's some phenolic material too. Wine has a little touch of bitterness, which
I
is
just have to
balanced
go back
out.
to it.
Yeah,
Everyone, everyone's looking at me like
making me happy. Oh, they're getting the stank eye from
everyone's-
people. They're like,
yeah,
hey,
they're
that's,
like, what?
That's less for them.
I think there's more in the drawer over there. We'll be fine.
Okay, that's okay.
No, this is as soon as you said the muscat, I remember reading on the tech sheet, but then I realized that's what I'm smelling.
Yeah, it's just so
It's
fun.
really giving a nice floral lift. And tell me a little bit about so we've talked about vin de piscine and pool wine. You guys have like a splash bar or something that's going on here that people can come taste
Yes,
at?
we do.
Okay, tell me about
We
that.
got a splash bar pop-up happening here for House of Brown. It is located just a couple doors down from Brown Downtown, our tasting room. And the House of Brown Splash Bar is open. Right now it's open Thursday and Friday afternoon from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. And we
wow.
pour all
Perfect.
4 of our amazing wines coming from House of Brown. We have a Chardonnay, a Rosé, we have a red blend that is served chilled and it's crushable, adjacent to Pinot Noir.
That
and
you
then
guys were ahead of that curve because like chilled reds is like the big thing now.
Yeah.
And your red blend and the chilled factor on that is at least 2 years ahead of that
Thank you.
trend.
Thank you.
It's so
We
interesting.
try. we just released the Cabernet Sauvignon that is an unoaked Cabernet Sauvignon that is just so unique for what it is. And all of the fruit for the House of Brown wines comes from Lodi, specifically Cosumnes River.
Yeah.
Slightly cooler subzone within the southwestern portion of Lodi. So we're super excited about it.
Well, and it's another example, I think, of what I would call a good on-ramp wine. It is not cheap, but what is the suggested retail on those?
The SRP is roughly between $20 and $25.
So
affordable. These are your Tuesday night wines.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold on. What's today? These are your Wednesday night wines.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Maybe Saturday is that rosé champagne. Just you gotta have a special occasion wine
something
during the week. But so we've talked a little bit about methodology. I want to go back to the Lopez de Heredia, which is a Rioja Rosado or rosé from Spain. You mentioned it because it really is a very special wine. I wanted to speak to it because we talked about winemaking techniques that drive certain rosés. That one goes in a whole different direction from any one of these in terms of what we would call élevage or aging. So just talk about that a little bit so people understand what they're paying for when they do find it.
They're getting a rosé that is actually aged in oak barrels, in used American oak barrels for many years actually. And the rosé takes on a little bit more of a kind of a pinkish heading into almost orange color, and the profile is fuller bodied, more savory, but it is so delicious, and it is just one of those things you have to experience once in your life.
Unbelievably complex.
Yes.
I think we're talking about it because we're hoping that now that the rosé category has really gotten roots, thanks to Whispering Angel and Sasha Lachine, who's Alexis Lachine's son, and really kind of created the category. We're hoping that more Rioja producers will make that style of rosé, right?
Yeah, we think so.
It's super cool, and why not? They've got the Grenache, they've got other great grapes. So let's go because we need some more supply to help us with the pricing of these things.
Indeed.
But winemaking technique is a factor, and the last thing I'll say about that too is that you've probably seen, I think people have seen, some really now expensive rosés coming out of Provence. There's a reason for it. They're doing incredibly intense work with how they handle the lees, which is the spent yeast cells and the light little bits, light grape solids that the wine ages on to give it texture. But they're also aging them in barrels, and they're not like strong smelling cinnamony and vanilla-y barrels, but they're really handling this very carefully. And I'm just gonna say that wines like the Whispering Angel's big brother, the Garris, and things like that, I have tasted them blind and been like, what is this? So it's not just a made up thing. It actually, the wines really are interesting, and I don't know that if I don't have the money to spend $100 on rosé, but if I had it, I would say it does deliver something much more than the $20 little, little sibling. So it's just an interesting thing to know.
Excellent. That's something for the rosé fanatics to aspire to. If you like drinking really tasty rosé and you normally are getting bottles between the $20 and $50 mark, maybe, a special occasion you go for, the Garras and get something that's really, a very specific and different experience,
Or if you're like a tech bro or a finance bro or sis, then you can be just like Leo in Saint-Tropez, and that's the shout out to the Swifties there. Or if you're hanging out with Leo in Saint-Tropez, that's probably what they're bringing to his table and for his entourage. But
if it's Tuesday night or Wednesday night, I would just go for this.
Exactly. And that label is so incredibly cool.
Product placement.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's really cool. You got to keep the lights on. That's good. So we're gonna wrap it up. I want to though thank my wonderful live audience here. I want to thank Christopher.
Thank you.
The incredible Christopher Gaither. And I want to thank Rebecca for all that fish that we're going to eat. Just kidding. They live in San Francisco, so I won't be horning in on you. But for your friendship and for putting up with this one.
Thank you.
And being a very, very important leader in the Court of Master Sommeliers. We have a lot of work to do, and she's taken that challenge, and it's really, really cool. I'm going to do a quick shout out to the next show will be on July 2nd, and the theme is Uncle Sam and Lady Liberty walk into a bar. And the reason I'm doing that is because we will be just before July 4th and just before Bastille Day.
Yeah.
And as we all know, we wouldn't have a country without the French, and the French wouldn't have a country without us. We've been stood by each other in some of the toughest times. And so I will be focusing on American and French spirits and cocktails for summertime. So we'll have some fun with that. So make sure to mark your calendars. Importantly, wait, where is this? No, it's not coming up, darn it. Subscribe to the channel, then you'll get a reminder. I'm really bad at this stuff, as
Smash
you can
that
imagine.
subscribe button, guys.
Smash it, exactly. And so that's going to be the next show. And but I want to wrap this one up by saying that I really, really adore the community that we have in this industry, and my friendship with the Brown family. And today is June 18th. Tomorrow is June 19th or Juneteenth. And
Yes.
Part of why we wanted to talk about skin contact wines is that in the same way that you can't necessarily judge a rosé by its color or a book by its color, we need to have that idea in life and really, really be all about each other and people. And I want to give a shout out to Opal. I think her name was Opal Lee, and she's the one who made the Juneteenth holiday a federal holiday by walking from Fort Worth to Washington to say to the president, would you please do this? And it took some convincing, and then she finally got it done. So thank you to all the folks who supported that, and just want to make sure that we're all really taking care of each other, and that's a big part of it. So
huge part of it.
Yeah.
Can I give one other shout out?
Please.
Actually, two other shout outs.
Please.
Just a happy belated birthday to Deneen Brown.
Deneen Brown, CEO.
CEO of Brown Estate. Let's go.
CEO, yeah.
And yes, happy Juneteenth, everybody.
Yeah.
Great to have you all here. Great to have you all here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
And
it means so much that you came.
So I'm going to hit my last screen, and it's just going to show the graph. There is a little bit of a opacity to